Yo, 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 what is up? And welcome to Intentional Grounding on the Buffalo Media Network. I'm your host, Sterls, recording from a hotel room.
Yeah,
Nothing crazy going on right now.
what is that about?
Hey, man, listen, I got a couple big work projects, and I live an hour and a half from where I work. So it's
Wildest
snowing here in
decision that you
Denver.
ever made.
I know, dog. It's snowing, and I can't be, I can't be at home working from home when I got these two big projects. So I'm up here for the next 2 nights, man.
Two of them. Listen to you.
2 nights.
Wow.
I know.
Well, and he brought the big guns too. I mean, he's got the nice mic and everything, so he really thought this through.
I thought it through. Now my room I got a pretty nice room in here. It's not too bad. I can't, I didn't really bring my lighting and stuff like that, but so far so good. This works out really well, man.
You always look fly. Don't worry about it.
Hey, that chocolate mocha, that milk chocolate, baby. You already know what's up.
It's easier to light. I can tell you that much.
Dog, I know. If I was white and pasty, bro, it would just look
like this. It would look like this.
See, you know how there's good synergy when you can finish my sentence.
Yeah. Well, I'm shocked you're up in Denver, but it's one of the wilder decisions that you ever made to commute 2.5 hours every freaking day. But all right, glad you're getting some sense about you.
Hey man, Black folks, we work too, man. We got jobs and we keep them, and
never said you didn't. And nothing to do with the conversation.
I'm not a DEI hire, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
They value me. Okay.
Didn't mean you had to drive 3 hours to get there.
I know. You know what I did too, though? When I got into the office, I told my boss, I'm like, hey, I'm here for 2 nights, just so you know. I got to make sure she knows the dedication that I just,
She paying for it?
Hell no.
Oof. That's even tougher.
They would have. They said they would. I was like, no, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. So the city would have paid for it.
All right. Mr. Big Shot. Don't worry. Don't worry about paying for it. I got it.
Hey, now I still eat McDonald's, on the value meal. Even that's getting a little too expensive.
That's my choice. That is not a cost thing. That's because you want that hot and spicy McChicken, and we know you do.
Bruh, and with some barbecue sauce. Come on now, and quit playing with me. That's delicious. I did recently order though. I'll tell you this. So I saw some on TikTok, bro. And they were like, oh, yeah, because how like some restaurants have like hidden menus or whatever. Somebody was like, yo, you can on TikTok, you can get a McGangbang. And I'm like, whoa, pause now. Pause, a McGangbang. I'm like, a McGangbang. So I'm like, okay, I got to do this. And lo and behold, like, it's a real thing. Like, there's a real secret menu for McDonald's. And a McGangbang is like, it's a real sandwich, dog.
Now, I heard. Have you had it? I haven't, but I've heard of the land, sea, and air, which I think might be the same thing with just two different names.
Land, sea, and air. That would be a fish fillet.
Yep.
With a what is that? What else? Because air, chicken, and land, and a hamburger.
Yeah, man, land, sea, and air.
I don't know if I would eat that, bro. Because here's the deal: the fish fillet, it's always dry.
You shouldn't eat any of it. But
yeah, I know that's true.
You know what I mean?
And I haven't had dinner tonight, so I got to figure something out.
I just pounded some chicken nuggets because I knew I had like 5 minutes. Air fried some chicken nuggets and threw them down.
All right, so I got some stuff for you tonight. So
yeah, let's go, man.
Tonight we're gonna talk. I mean, first we're gonna talk about. I want to get your take on the Super Bowl. Okay, and there's this storyline developing. Okay, that because I think as Bills fans, people who follow the Bills, cover them, we've been kind of talking about this whole Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, go big, and in free agency. But I think you and we've been talking, for the past few weeks, not just because of the Super Bowl, but I do think there is a path where the Bills can be successful, not mortgaging the future for one of these big stars. and through the draft. And so I want to talk to you about we're going to kind of flesh that out a little bit. So I know, when you and I get on this show, we start talking. It's a therapy session. So for those of you out there
You
who
always
think,
hold on, time out. You always say that.
it is, baby. What are you talking about?
For you.
Yeah. So if it's for me,
it is for you. It's not for all of us.
And Ivory working together in perfect harmony.
Okay. All right.
You know what I'm saying? I can sing the song for you if we want to now, but I'll spare the listeners. But I can't sing though. I actually can't sing. But whatever. That's for another day. Maybe when the Bills win the Super Bowl, I'll sing you a song. Hey, all right, heard it here first. But you get the idea, right? You're on the same page as where I want to know where you stand. So we're going to talk about that. The Bills hired a special teams coordinator today, right? They did that, and we'll just shoot the shit. So if you haven't done so already, for those of you who are watching the show, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the Buffalo Media Network. Intentional grounding is what the show is, what this called, and so we are here. We're ready. We're locked and loaded. So we shall do this. We shall. Rob, you good?
Yeah,
with your Nuggets hoodie on. I can't handle that. I cannot handle the NBA after they traded Luka. I'm so mad, but whatever. We'll talk about it another time. All right, so Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Did you expect it? Did you see that coming?
You knew I was on the Eagles.
I mean, you were on the Eagles.
We talked about it on the pregame show last week, and everything was telling me Eagles, and the only thing that tells you not Eagles was Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And it was, how much do you believe that those two guys weigh, metaphorically, to offset how good that Eagles roster is comparatively? And the answer was Pat Mahomes had one of his worst games that I've ever seen him play. And Andy Reid, I didn't think had a particularly strong game either, though there were some drops and bad throws and bad reads. So, I find it harder to put it on Andy than to put it on the offensive line or Pat Mahomes. And I think that Eagles roster did what you expected it to do, being the best roster in football. And I think they made that very clear.
Yeah. How do I say this? Was it a bad game for the Chiefs, or are the Eagles just that good? And I've been trying to really figure that out, because for instance, we saw, that same Eagles team kind of struggle with the Commanders a little bit. I know the Commanders are a young, good, up-and-coming team, but what they did to presumably the best team in the league, I mean, they just destroyed them.
I don't know if I agree that the Commanders hung.
I mean, they beat themselves with those
23 to 55 was the final score.
Yeah, but that's I mean, look at all the turnovers that they had. It was just self-inflicted.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I think that Eagles roster is unquestionably the best in the league. I think we've been talking about it all year. I think their biggest question was their head coach. And I think he steadied himself, maybe is how I want to say it. I mean, just kind of got himself under control. He hired two great coordinators and let them do their thing. And they both were terrific. But I think they are unquestionably the best roster in the league. And I also think both are true. I mean, the final score, it was 34-0 at one point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think both are true of what you asked. I think the Eagles are the best roster in football, and I think Pat Mahomes played the worst game I've ever seen him play. And I watched his very first start because it was against the Broncos here in Denver for a throwaway game.
Yeah,
I mean, it was literally the worst game I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, and so you leave that game, and I'm just floored. Man, okay, hold on. Do I need to be checked? I don't know. You like to check me from time to time, but checked in terms of capital. Okay, do I want to invest my future, mortgage my future for, instant gratification, or do I want to continue to kind of slow play this if you will, kind of just making quality picks. You got a first and 2 seconds that you can really make some hay with. I mean, we're talking about NFL draft here that is very, very deep in defensive ends, defensive tackles, right? So you can get some guys here. What that looks like for the Bills. But the Eagles, man, they put on a clinic. Like that defensive line, bro. I'm just like beside myself seeing how like it looked too easy for them. I don't know if you felt it. It was easy. Jalen Carter behind line of scrimmage all the time. You got Josh Sweat, who on our Sunday show, I was like, yo, he's in that Greg Rousseau tier. But I stand by that in the sense that, like, when you have guys like Jalen Carter, and a lot of talent around you, man, it's going to make some of these good guys a lot better than they are. Like Milton Williams, man, he came on strong. He had a really good game. He's always been a very solid defensive lineman, but what you saw, I mean, he had plays that just popping out on film, and you're just like, bro, like, I cannot believe like they just came in droves, and it was just easy for them. When you can just rush for everybody else in coverage. I mean, they're saying they were just playing like a cover four. I mean, Fangio really didn't do anything special against the Chiefs, and they just the Chiefs almost look like it's either that defense line is just all world, or the Chiefs just didn't really have a good game plan. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the Chiefs offensive line, and it's part of the reason it's so disappointing that the Bills defensive line didn't do anything against them. But the Chiefs offensive line is just, it's a disaster right now.
Yeah.
When you watched on Sunday, you saw the case for don't make two positions okay by moving somebody who was great from one position to a position that they're just okay to, because there was pressure coming up the middle of that offensive line right in Pat Mahomes' face.
Oh, yeah.
And if you had Tooney at guard and you just kind of tried to figure it out at tackle where you can chip guys, you can put a tight end out there and help them. There's options. But if you're just getting cooked in the middle, there's nobody there to help them. You can put a running back there, but it's not, you're going to slide protection. It's not going to make a difference, really. He's going to be looking to pick up somebody else. You're not double teaming the guy. So, their solution to a bad offensive line was to move Tooney, who is an all-world guard, to tackle, and I think it was the bad call. I think it worked up until the Super Bowl, and I think it caught up to him. And you saying Vic Fangio didn't do anything special. I understand call-wise he didn't do anything super unique or exotic, but there's something to be said for having a plan and sticking to it. Like, he didn't outthink himself. He didn't try to outthink the room. He just said, I know my four guys up front are better than your offensive line, and I'm not going to get cute and do something stupid and give you a play to get in this game. I'm just going to rush for all day long. And there's something to be said for that too.
And you make a really good point. And let me jump on a further point that you made. It's Fangio had the perfect marriage of knowing your personnel. He knew his personnel and he knew the matchups to where he didn't have to like cook up these exotic pressures and these exotic looks in the back end. I mean, you saw, it was very simple, little cover 4, cover 3. Cooper DeJean was, playing that nickel role on the side of the field that had the most space, right? Where they were trying to stack wide receivers and do those types of things. And, they had to kind of cover up Oren Burks, their linebacker, who was not really good in coverage, and they did it so well. I mean, you saw these guys communicating, passing coverage. And I mean, it's like, bro, if you can get that kind of communication in your defense and for them to play fast. I mean, Cooper DeJean, he's a rookie, and I'm just pointing him out because, I mean, he was amazing in this game. But when you have those hosses up front to be able to do that, it changes everything. And that's what the Bills have tried to build. They've tried to build that defense, and they just haven't done it well enough, right? Like the Eagles have done it better than everybody else. And it's just it was really cool to see.
Two things before we move away from it. One, you and I, when we talked about the game, said, I think I said it and you agreed, or maybe the other way around, but it was the veteran wide receivers, veteran pass catchers versus that young secondary with DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell and everybody back there. Whoever won that, I thought was going to win the game. And how clearly did the young guys on that defensive secondary outplay DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown and old looking Travis Kelce and everybody else? I mean, I thought they did a fantastic job because, getting the pressure with 4 is one thing, and that obviously helps them. But they made some plays too. They cut that 4th and 5 off. DeJean drops off that one route, picks the ball off, runs it back for a touchdown. I mean, I thought they played really, really well too. So everybody's talking about the front 4, but I want to give some credit to the back end too.
Yeah. They really, really did a really good job. And man, that secondary, I mean, I would almost say that secondary is not too far back from how good that defensive line is. And when you really look at it, man, they got guys everywhere who were able to make plays. I mean, and so you look at this Bills team, and I know this is a down year for that defense, statistically and just from a personnel wise. And you just got to go, okay, like I get Bills fans who are tired of the Bills just sinking all these assets in the defensive line and not really getting much out of it. Like I get it. But like you can't just stop. You gotta keep trying to figure this out. So maybe, as we get into this, maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe you look at Von Miller and you say, hey, Von, like we need to do something with this contract if you want to stay a part of the team. Like, we cut you and re-sign you back and kind of figure out that. I don't know how the cap schematics work. So, I mean, I may be talking out of my ass here, but there's got to be a way to get that cap number to where it matches his production, right? Which is not much. I'm not saying you're going to do a vet minimum. Let's do 2-year, 15 million or something like that. But I don't know what the numbers will be.
You still have that. I mean, the original contract, that cap hit, you're not going to be able to change it.
I know, man. It's rough. I know. Well, they need to do a post June 1 cut then. I'm cool with if I was hoping that I'd see something along the lines of him announcing his retirement.
It saves you like $7 million though. It barely saves you any money.
You need it. You need all the money you can get.
You're gonna turn around and spend that $7 million on a Leonard Floyd, and
I take it.
But I'm just saying, like, you're gonna get the same production out of that $7 million as if you just keep Von Miller.
I don't know about that. What did Von Miller do this year? Really? You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. Like,
okay,
you got.
I don't think it was that bad. I don't think it was that bad.
It wasn't that good. When you look at Epinesa, who did you get more out of this year, Epinesa or Von?
Well, I mean,
it's a thing.
You're also, if you're just not looking at cap dollars but actual dollars, you're paying Epinesa more than you're paying Von.
You sure about that?
Pretty sure.
You're paying Epinesa. What was Epinesa's contract? What do you get?
I'm looking.
He's making $8 million a year, something like that.
So, all right. I mean, how different? So then ask yourself this question: how different does it look if the Bills are playing that game? Josh Allen leads them on a
Eagles,
touchdown.
I think it's a different. I think it's a different outcome.
Josh Allen leads them on a touchdown run.
Yeah, I mean, I think the matchups
playing in that game.
Yeah, the Bills aren't getting blown out, but I don't know if they win that game. But I think it's not a 20 22-point blowout.
So it was a 2-year, $12 million deal for Epinesa.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to look at the Miller restructure. Oh, that's interesting. It just has his regular numbers.
See, yeah, because he, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, I mean, I love Von Miller, the guy, right, on the roster.
The restructure was 2.669.
That's his cap hit. That's what they paid him salary.
That's his salary, right? The cap hit is $23 million.
Okay, so they had to pay that in bonus.
Yeah, you're paying Epinesa more than you're paying Vaughn when it comes to cash. The thing is, you're not going to be able to make that cap go away. Not next year. Like if you cut him post June 1, you're doing it for the year after.
And it's like $16 million or something like that.
It's 15.4.
Yeah. Over 2 years. So, man. See, and this is why we're having this conversation. Yeah. I do think though, like we chatted, and like Josh Sweat, I mean, I think he had a hell of a game. I'm not going to take anything from him, but I think he just got himself a bag. Somebody's going to pay him, 4-year, $60 to $80 million contract is what somebody's going to pay him. The Bills ain't going to do that, especially when you have a guy like Gregory Rousseau. I'll take any productive pass rusher, but I mean Josh Sweat is a 8 to 10 sack a year guy, and the Bills don't have that right now.
If you're talking big picture, in my head, two things come to mind. One, if you're not going to take a big swing for a Crosby or a Garrett or, God forbid, a Parsons, if you draft somebody, even if you trade up a little bit to draft somebody this year, which I know we're going to go through them, but just hypothetically, if you draft somebody this year, if they turn into Gregory Rousseau, would you call that a hit?
Yeah, I would.
If they turn into George Karlaftis, would you call that a hit?
Yeah.
If you get Josh Sweat out of them, would you call that a hit?
Well, define hit. We're talking like because I think it matters in terms of like where you were drafted, right?
Sure, but I'm just saying, like,
yeah, you would overall, yeah, you would say
you consider that a success,
right?
And is that good enough to win the Super Bowl next year or the year after that? Or 4 years from now? Because we're 4 years out from drafting Groot, and you're telling me that pick wasn't good enough to win the Super Bowl. So even if you get what you would consider a hit, is it really honestly going to be enough for you?
You need 3 or 4 of those on that defense. You got to. Because you don't have enough. You're
but I'm just saying, if you use those picks to trade for Garrett or Crosby, you know what you're getting.
Right.
If you use that and you hope that you get Gregory Rousseau, maybe best case scenario, you in 4 years are going to be telling me the same thing. So like I'm a team builder, and I'm totally fine with you doing it that way. But you're the one that's been telling me that it hasn't been enough.
It hasn't.
So then drafting a guy is useless unless you're talking about Abdul Carter, and you're not doing that, right? So
yeah, you're not going to have the draft compensation to get up there. But here's the deal.
That's what I'm saying.
But here's the deal. I think though that if you were to tell me, hey, Mykel Williams, University of Georgia, solid defensive end, right? Hell, Shamar Stewart is a candidate I'd look at. If you want to talk about mid-round, 4th, 5th round, Josiah Stewart, University of Michigan, Jack Sawyer. I mean, these are guys that, like, if you were to put them in a vacuum in a different draft class, you're talking about these guys, first round considerations, You know, I think Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Jack Sawyer, and probably shit.
So listen, I
A
get you.
few other guys. You get what I'm going with that.
But it leads me to the next thing I was going to say, the next question.
Mm-hmm.
Were we afraid of the Chiefs last year?
We're afraid of the Chiefs no matter what they throw out on the field, bro.
We were not afraid of the Chiefs last year.
Shit. I
We
was.
thought we should win that game.
Yeah. Every time. It's the same script. Every time.
No, I think the last two times we felt like we should win that game.
Yeah.
And that's different.
For sure.
The past 2 years, the Chiefs have been weaker than they've been since the whole thing started. It's been going slowly downhill. And that's what happens when you draft at 32 every year. Yeah, of course, that's what happens. They're gonna reload. And so next year might be your best shot at it. Because I can tell you one thing for sure. And like, this is just bored out over the league for generations. There's no way they get that lucky 2 years in a row. And even Chiefs fans will tell you that they were lucky. The O'Connell fumble, the blocked field goal, the toe being out of bounds. Like there's no freaking way that they get as much luck that they had this year again next year. It just doesn't happen. So say they lose 5 games. Can the Chargers go 12-5? Can the Broncos go 12-5?
I think so.
Right? Can we get them in a wild card spot maybe? Who knows? I don't know.
I don't know, man. They're going to have some pieces coming back. You know, wide receivers going to be better for them.
But tell me a better year than next year. It cannot be the Arrowhead Invitational next year. You got a Miami team who is running out of cap space, and they're in a tough spot right now. I'll be interested to see what kind of team they bring back.
Right.
You got Drake May, who I expect to take a step forward, but that roster still needs major help in rebuilding.
Yep.
Maybe they can put it together with a good young quarterback. And you just kicked Aaron Rodgers out of New York, and Aaron Glenn's going to start a whole new rebuild there. So the division should be yours if you take care of business, which means the 1 seed should be yours. Because I don't think Houston from the South has taken it. And I don't think those AFC North teams, they're all going to beat each other up. So the 1 seed is there for you. Tell me that it's not about right now.
Yeah, I mean, it very much is about right now. And
so then fuck your draft picks.
Well, I mean,
I don't want to hear about Shamar Stewart.
Bro,
I don't want to hear about Jack
but
Sawyer.
You're gonna hear about him.
But that's what I'm saying, dog, is like, how serious are you? How serious are you? Because the acquiring team on Myles Garrett has 2 years left. And if you look at Myles Garrett and say, we'll trade for you, but we're running on those 2 years at $18 million per. And I'm also going to trade for Max Crosby, and we're going to run on his 1 year and however much he's got left. And that's it. We're going for it.
I mean, it'd be nice. It would feel real nice to be able to sit here and talk about the defensive line actually doing something, because I mean, and you know, we both know this, but you add, and we've talked about it, you add Myles Garrett to this defense, everybody gets better, and it's not even close what he does. You know what I'm saying?
You're bigger on him than I am, but yes, there's no question about adding a pass rush to this defense helps.
Come on, dog. Like, you're not high on Myles Garrett just because of his age. So you got that Von Miller PTSD going on.
No, I'm not high on Myles Garrett because I feel like his pass rush can be inconsistent at times. And that's not inconsistent for an NFL world. That's an inconsistent relative to his talent. I I think we have a large percentage of the fan base that is frustrated with our two best pass rushers now, because relative to their talent, they don't bring it every week. And I can't tell you why that is. I don't know how to fix that. I think a new defensive line coach is a great start there. But I think a large percentage of the Buffalo Bills fan base is frustrated because Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver do not rush up to their potential every play, every down.
Yeah.
And it's why I think Bills Mafia would like Max Crosby better than they'll like Myles Garrett, because I feel like from time to time, Myles Garrett does not live up to his potential. Where, I mean, he could wreck every game if he wanted to. Whereas Max Crosby maybe doesn't have as much talent, but there is not a single play that dude doesn't bring it. And
I mean, yeah, the effort. I mean, I would say, I mean, from
it's not. I don't want to call it effort.
What do you want to call it then? Because it's got to be called something.
Consistency. I mean, it's not to say that they're not trying is the reason that they don't affect games. Do you think there's games that Ed Oliver doesn't try? I don't think so.
So in Max Crosby's 6 years in the league, he's had 3 double-digit sack seasons.
I know.
You know, so
I know
like
nothing compared to.
No, and both of these guys, I would say, you know, Myles Garrett has had more help, but neither one of these guys have had like a solid other players around them to produce. I think if you put either one of these guys in Buffalo, I think it makes them better, because they have, even though, you know, you're not, we just mentioned Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver don't always bring that consistency and live up to the expectations that we have for them. They are good to average, better than average, but they're good. They're barely good, defensive linemen. But if you add a Myles Garrett to that, it makes Myles Garrett better, and it makes all of them better instantly.
Part of that, though, is that you can't get rid of Groot when you do it.
Right.
You need to bring in 2.
Right. And I guess it goes to, to the compensation part where, okay, like, what are you giving up for Myles Garrett? Because we don't know. We can speculate all we want to, but we don't know what the Browns are going to be asking for. So I think and then you're talking about a draft class. I know you don't want to hear it, but a draft class that's deep at defensive tackle and deep at defensive end, where if you don't have a first, second round pick, okay, because you gave it, let's say you give up the first and 2 seconds and next year's first for Myles Garrett. Okay, let's just say that's a compensation package. You still have an opportunity to go get a couple guys in the mid rounds that I think could be very useful in this defense. So maybe it's both. Maybe you have to do both.
So I looked all this up a couple weeks ago to bring it up on the show, and I decided not to do it, and now you're going to make me do it.
Please do.
Myles Garrett over the last few years has had big sack games, which is what you want from a guy like that. I understand. But I also think that skews his numbers a little bit. So this year, he's got 2 sacks against the Dolphins, 3 sacks against Pittsburgh, 3 sacks against the Chargers, 2 sacks against the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he openly admits that he plays better when he's playing another pass rusher that people think is better than him. So hello, Pittsburgh. Hello, Las Vegas. Right. So that's 4 multi-sack games. He also had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games without a sack. So when you say he had 14 sacks on the season or 14 and a half sacks on the season, it sounds like, oh, wow, 14 sacks. But 10 of those came in 4 games.
Yeah, and guess what? You don't have anybody who can give you a multi-sack performance. That's the thing. And let's be honest. If we're talking, okay, so let's say you have an argument about maybe him not being consistent down to down, which is a very fair criticism of him.
It's not even down to down, it's game to game.
Well, downs are in the game. I mean, you get where I'm going with that. I think there's something to be said though, putting him in Buffalo, where he can be the best version of himself. There is a track record of players coming to Buffalo and performing at their best. I think you play in Cleveland, bro. There's nothing to play for. They fucking suck.
2023, they made the playoffs.
Okay, whoop-de-doo. You made
He
the
had
playoffs.
3.5 sacks versus Tennessee, 2 sacks versus Indy, and 2 sacks versus guess who? Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He had 14 that year.
He's made the playoffs twice in his entire career.
7.5 of them came in 3 games. He had 14. He had 7.5.
So now we're gonna nitpick how he gets his sacks.
I'm just saying, dog. If he goes and lights up the New England Patriots in Week 3 next year and gets 3 sacks,
okay, let me ask you a question.
Hold on, and then doesn't show versus the Chiefs in Arrowhead in a divisional round playoff game, you're gonna be pissed. Bills fans are gonna be pissed because it's all about what he does in that game that matters.
True.
So that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm worried about about Myles Garrett. Is because I think he's got that gene that Rousseau and Oliver have, and he's just got more talent than them. So when he does find it and turn it on, he gets 3 sacks. But at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of zeros on there.
So I guess it's a matter of you have to unlock that. And I think being in a winning franchise, being with Josh Allen on the other side, that's going to give you motivation,
maybe,
to do what you need to do. And my question I was going to ask you is, okay, let's just say, let's say you're getting some of this. I need him. I need Myles Garrett to do this for me. I need to help. If you add Myles Garrett, you know how when you've heard people talk about when you add a player to a team, how many wins does this player influence? And I would say on a low ball, I would say Myles Garrett influences 1.5 wins on a low ball. I think if at his best, I think he gives you a 2.5 to 3 game edge. So like he can influence games in that regard. So we're talking a 17 game season. He can help you. He's going to be the catalyst that propels you to 3 wins. I'll take that. Absolutely. Right. Because if you do that in the regular season for the Bills this season, hell, you probably wouldn't have lost against the Rams. I mean, that was just a shit show altogether, right? Like he's definitely helping you take one of those losses off the record. And then I'm not even going to count the New England game, right? So, I mean, it really comes down to this, and we've talked about it. You got to do everything you can to get the number 1 seed, and that's just it. It has to go through Buffalo. It just has to. It cannot go to Baltimore. It cannot go to the fucking Chiefs. We're all sick of that.
Well,
but that AFC Championship game has to go through Buffalo.
That's why 2 years ago was such a disappointment, because I don't know that I 100% agree with you. I think you can go win in Baltimore. I think you can go win in Houston. I think you can go win in Los Angeles. I mean, who else? Cincinnati. Cincinnati might be the only other place that I'm cautious about you going playing an away game there. But you had the Chiefs on the road. They were the 3 seed.
Yeah,
you were 2, and you couldn't finish the job.
Why? Because the defense doesn't show up.
So yeah, I mean, it can't be the Arrowhead Invitational. Right. I don't care if you are playing an AFC Championship game in Baltimore. I'd prefer you don't. That game was so close this year that I don't like taking my chances doing that. But at the same time, there's just something about Arrowhead that gets in their head.
Yeah, man, and it's frustrating. But again, I felt for a Bills team to not have. And when you take out the McDermott, equating him to not, being a great defensive coordinator, which I think that's crazy. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. You really do. When you watch all 22, you can really see a big disparity in not having the talent that he needs to run the scheme that he wants. And I don't know, because you've pigeonholed yourself with a small defensive line, right? Smaller defenders, and you rely on speed, but to an extent, right? Where the back end has really no speed. The Bills' team speed overall has to improve this offseason. And then you can't do it all in one offseason, I know, but you're too slow at corner. You're slow at safety.
I think you're more down on them than I am.
Ah, man.
I don't think you're too slow at corner. I think you're average speed at corner. I think Christian Benford is average speed. I really do. I'm not concerned about it, especially with the way that they play defense.
I'll give him he's average, but average to below average. And then you look,
guess what?
Rasul Douglas is definitely below average.
Kyer Elam is plenty fast,
but he doesn't play. He's fast, but he doesn't have the processing speed.
That's my point. It's not. I don't think it's about the speed.
That's just one player, though. That's just one player. The rest of them slow as hell too. Taron Johnson's slow. We know DeMar Hamlin's slow. Taylor Rapp is Taylor Rapp and Bishop. I mean, those are only two that really give you any athletic juice back there, but they can't stay healthy.
Well, yeah, I think that's a big problem. You went through a large portion of the year without Taylor Rapp, and as well as he played when he was in there, you did not have enough depth behind him to allow for something like that. And I think Taylor Rapp is a quintessential unathletic of the two safeties. Right? Like if you're building a safety pair, you want him to be the least athletic, not the most athletic.
Exactly.
Of the two of them.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm all for upgrading safety again, but what is that? I mean, are we just tossing Cole Bishop out?
No. I mean, Cole, I like Cole, and I've expressed that. Like I like Cole Bishop. But I do think though you got to get some more. You got Cam Lewis. It's okay, but DeMar Hamlin cannot be your answer. And I don't care. I'd rather have Cole Bishop out there and fuck up than have DeMar Hamlin out there that with no athletic upside, and he only makes plays when the ball's thrown exact right to him. Like, yeah, I get that he's where he needs to be in the scheme, but like that can't be the barometer. That cannot be the standard. You have to go get playmakers now.
What really kills me is I want DeMar Hamlin as my backup.
I want DeMar Hamlin on another team.
I know, to be honest. I know you do, but if he's technically your fourth safety, but really your third safety, if you bring in a true starting caliber safety to start over top of him and your backups are Cole Bishop and DeMar Hamlin, don't you feel pretty good about that?
Yeah, you feel good about that. They both would have starting experience, etc. But my point is that like you can't go match up with Kansas City. And like if there was a year where they were ripe, it was this year. You had your opportunity, and we couldn't do it because we couldn't match them. We could not match Marquise Brown. We could not stick with Worthy. Like they ate our lunch. They just did. Now, you look at Marquise Brown. He didn't have a great game statistically, but what he was able to do to affect the game from a route running perspective, just being out there, it opened things up for other players. Worthy, same thing, man. Like they got to get better in terms of their athleticism on this defense. They got to.
So as we've been talking, I've gone through and looked.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 years, Max Crosby, each of them, had only 6 games that he played in that he didn't have at least a half a sack. Over the last 2 years, Micah Parsons, each of those years, had only 6 games that he played in that he didn't have a sack. And Myles Garrett has 8 and 9.
Yeah. So what are you signing up for then?
I'm just telling you that I think the consistency from these other pass rushers is worth more, especially to a guy like McDermott, than being able to dominate one game versus the Titans in week 3 and get your team a win with that.
But I mean, you do need him to dominate one game. If like dominate the Chiefs game, I know you can't pick, whatever, but like I need him to dominate the Chiefs game. I need him to dominate in the playoffs.
He hasn't dominated the big games. He's dominated the Steelers and the Ravens, or the Raiders and the Titans. Like he's not dominating when they play the Ravens. He's not dominating.
Well, he had 2 sacks against the Ravens on the 15th of September. Like he played a damn good game.
I also watched him come to Denver and get shut down by Garrett Bowles.
2 sacks against Denver. I'm just saying, like, he's producing.
I'm just telling you.
No, listen, I get it. No, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Here's the thing. I'm the advocate for these guys.
Are you?
I'm the advocate for Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau, and normally it's the rest of the mafia that I'm trying to hold off and say these guys are producing. Yeah, let's not freak out. But so I'm just telling you, if you add another guy,
so you're saying you need somebody. Okay, so based off of the criteria, what you're laying out, the best player for the Bills defense will be Micah Parsons.
Oh, I mean, there's no question.
There's no question, right?
Listen, here's an interesting thing that I didn't think we were going to argue about, but maybe we're about to. Micah Parsons is better than Myles Garrett.
Whoa.
Hey, here we go.
Bro, hold on.
We're 53 minutes in, fam.
I'll give
put
you.
Put in the bookmark. Here we fucking go.
We argue all the time, and this is nothing new. Listen, I don't know about that, bro.
100%. Without question.
Here's what I'll tell you. I'll give you that Micah Parsons is a more toolsy defender, right? He can do a lot. So if you want to talk about him being better that way, okay. But I think Myles Garrett is a more dominating force. Micah Parsons can wreck a game in multiple ways. He can wreck a game in multiple ways. I'm just saying, bro.
The fuck out of here.
How is that crazy?
That's crazy.
No, bro. No.
That's crazy.
That's not crazy, dog.
As far as physical attributes, if you want to tell me that Myles Garrett is better because he is a more physically imposing feature, that is pretty much the only thing that I will grant you with Myles Garrett being better than Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is more athletic. Micah Parsons is able to dominate physically, even though he doesn't have the size and stature that Myles Garrett does. He has more tools. He's got more weapons. You can put him more places on the field. You can move him around and do more things with him. And oh yeah, by the way, he's 5 years younger. You want to talk about team speed? There is no question that you could not. A million times out of a million, I am taking Micah Parsons over Myles Garrett.
I disagree,
Slam dunk with a bullet.
I disagree. Myles Garrett right now is the best defensive player in the league. He just is, bro.
No, he's not. Pat Surtain.
No.
Hey, listen, the people have spoken. It's been decided. You don't get
Fair. I like PS2. You and I love PS2. Okay. But Myles Garrett, when it comes to defensive line, Myles Garrett is he's your most dominating force on the defensive line.
Get the fuck out of here.
How is he not, bro? How is he not?
He should be. How's that?
It's him and TJ Watt.
Hold on. Let's take my old argument and my new one and put them together. He should be the most physically dominant player, the most dominant defender in all of the league. He's not. The most dominant defender in the league doesn't go 9 games without a sack.
Hater. That's just hater. That's hater jargon.
It's not, dude. I'm telling you. When the reason that then why are people saying TJ Watt's better than him?
Listen,
why are people saying that these other pass rushers are better? Not even other defenders. Other pass rushers are better than him.
Let's do this. Ian, producer Ian, I need you to tell TD to create a Twitter poll asking who's the better defensive player, Myles Garrett or your guy, Micah Parsons.
There's not even a question. I mean, it's not
remotely You're really close. High on Micah Parsons. And that, I'm not hating you for that. I just think that to say that Myles Garrett is the best defensive player in football, I think that's a little crazy.
I think you're crazy, man.
You always think I'm crazy. That's nothing new there.
That is a ludicrous argument to me.
Okay.
Wow.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at Micah Parsons' stats.
Not as good as Myles Garrett.
The last 4 years, he's got 52.5 sacks. Now let's go look at Myles Garrett. I can't believe you're making me do this, man.
Well, hey, man.
Let's see. I'm going to have to do some quick math here. So 14, 14, 16, 16. Easy. So that's what? 60.
Yeah.
So in Micah Parsons, including his rookie year in his first 4 years, he's got 52.5. And Myles Garrett in his year 26, 27, 28, and 29 seasons, the prime of your prime, has 6.5 more sacks than Micah Parsons does in his first 4 years.
Hey, well, let's talk
town,
about it.
Bro.
Hold on. One guy played for the fucking Browns. The other guy played in Dallas, where they had a much better supporting surrounding cast.
Brother,
much better.
Listen, I'm
just saying. I think that matters. If we're going to talk about the total.
I understand the Cleveland Browns aren't the Buffalo Bills, but these guys have made the playoffs in a lot of those seasons. They made the playoffs last year.
And you want to talk about somebody who disappears in the playoffs
4 years ago?
Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons doesn't do shit in the playoffs.
Oh, but he plays for the Cowboys. The Cowboys are the ones who don't do shit in the playoffs. If you're going to make that bullshit argument about the Browns, I'm going to make that bullshit argument about the Cowboys. Put Micah Parsons on the Bills.
Your whole argument was about consistency.
You're the one that said it. Stop. You're the one that said it. Put Micah Parsons on the Bills. He'll be more motivated. You don't have to worry about the fact that he didn't do anything in the playoffs with the Cowboys.
You want to talk about motivation? I think there is a cause for concern, and you and I talked about this with Micah Parsons, like the motivation, like that all that podcast and stuff he's got going on. I think that's detrimental to the team. But I mean, look, you're not going to find a perfect candidate, right, to come in and be a part of this team.
These are perfect candidates. They're two of the best defenders in the league.
They're not perfect prospects. It's not there's always going to be something that you're going to be like concerned about. Like it just is. It's a lot less concerns than you're talking about with Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau. But I do think the Bills got to go. If they got to go try to get one of these guys. They just do. And I think they're going to do it. I really do have enough confidence in Brandon Beane to where he's going to go out and he's going to kick the tires. He always does that. But we're getting real close to the scouting combine, which is coming up in a few weeks. That's where, free agency, that's the beginning of free agency. Like that's where they're going to tell, that's where the deals are starting to be made. And I think Brandon Beane's going to be in the mix. So I wouldn't be surprised if, it's end of February. We're right, first dawn days of March, and you're the Bills swing a trade. Like, I think it's coming.
To me, it's swing a couple trades or don't swing one at all.
Exactly. You can't go in here and half-ass it. It's got to be all or nothing.
So if they package one of their second-round picks with their first-rounder to move up, how high can they get from 29, is it? 30?
Yeah, 30. So if they package a second rounder to move up in next year's first, or just second rounder?
Just a second rounder.
So you're probably looking at 5 to 8 spots.
So high 20s?
Mm-hmm.
Can they get a blue chip defensive line prospect there?
James Pierce, I think he's a blue chipper.
You think he's going to be around in the early 20s?
I think there's a good chance that he can be around. I think he's probably a 16th to 22, 23 overall.
Okay, Tennessee Volunteers, 6'5", 243. 7.5 sacks last year.
Yeah. I mean, he's
9.5
legit,
the year before that.
He's legit. I mean, you talk about, he's bendy, fast. He is everything that like the Bills wanted in Von Miller. He has the same kind of play style as Von Miller. Now, Abdul Carter is probably, very similar to Von, but I think Abdul plays with more power. But James Pierce is definitely like that bendy edge rusher to complement Greg Rousseau.
And what are you doing about the interior then?
Well, if you're giving up a second round pick to, let's say they're moving up, to get, you gotta I think that next second round pick needs to be probably for a cornerback, man.
So you're running it back with Daquan Jones
and Ed Oliver, and then
Oliver.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look in the mid rounds again, like last year. But I'm gonna look in it because I think this defensive tackle class is loaded, right? So if you're looking at, I'd look at, you can have Deion Walker is a good one that you could be looking at. Big, powerful guy, has pass rush upside. Hell, Shamar Turner from Texas A&M, I think is very good. Tim Smith. There are guys here in the mid rounds. They're not blue chippers. Now, maybe you can develop them in the blue chippers, right? You could develop them and see what happens. But I think you have, in terms of a blue chip defensive tackles, I think there's probably 4 of them. And I would say Derek Harmon. I would throw him in there. Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Mason Graham. Those are your 4 blue chip, in my opinion, defensive tackles in this draft.
When they chase, they always miss.
I know, but you can't. I get it, but you have to keep trying, man. You've got to figure it out. Go ahead.
Let me just ask you this.
Okay.
You and I were both pounding the table for T'Vondre Sweat last year.
If they would just listen to us.
Would you trade Keon Coleman for T'Vondre Sweat straight up?
Yeah. I'll pack his damn bags for him.
I'll drive him to the airport.
Hell yeah.
Okay. All right. You were right there. Yeah. You were right there. And I don't know what their board looked like. I don't know if they had Coleman rated over T'Vondre Sweat. So yes, they're still staying true to their board, even though they took a position of need. And yeah, a lot of people would have been on them if they didn't draft a wide receiver with their first pick.
Right.
But if you take T'Vondre Sweat there, and then with your next pick, you say, hey, that guy Ladd McConkey's still on the board. Which version of the Bills do you think is better?
Oh, the one with T'Vondre Sweat.
And Ladd McConkey? Yeah, I fucking think so. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just a situation where, like, you're saying they got to get defensive line. They got to get defensive line.
They do, though.
All I've heard from you and every other draft expert is how deep this class is with defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Tackle, edge, both.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, no. No.
So you're telling me a class that's heavy in defensive tackle talent and defensive end talent, you're going to say, you know what? Screw that. We're going to do something else. This is the same Buffalo Bills team.
Oh, I want you to draft the best player.
Oh, the best on the board.
I don't care if he plays freaking quarterback.
If it's the Bills, then it's going to be a defensive end. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they're going to do. I'm telling you what they're going to do.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. And every time they've drafted for need, they felt like they needed 2 tight ends. They went and got Kincaid. They didn't have a wide receiver. They went and got Coleman. They didn't have a cornerback. They went and got Kyer Elam. Yeah, how has it worked out?
Every single time.
Every time they chase, they miss.
Yep.
So I want you to draft the best guy on your board.
So here's the deal.
I promise you, on draft night, when we are on here talking about it, if they take an offensive guard with the 30th overall pick, I'm not going to freak out.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, there was a time when the Bills took Sammy Watkins in a very heavy wide receiver laden draft, and the guys behind Sammy were fucking great. Right? Mike Evans, Odell. I mean, you're talking, generational. They were generational. And the Bills missed the boat on that because they had the idea that we're going to go get the best one, right? And they thought Sammy Watkins was it, and he wasn't. Now, I'm not saying that's not every case, right? But I mean, you could say you can speak to it on both ends of the spectrum. I guess it comes down to they can't miss on these picks, man. You missed, Kincaid is still a question mark. I think he's really good, but he's not producing. Okay, we'll give Coleman a pass to an extent because he's a rookie, but he really underwhelmed this year. And then what are we looking at from Brandon Beane's early round selections? Like it has to get better in round one, or their first pick. Epinesa was a second round pick, but he was their first selection in that draft. It's not good enough.
Same thing with Keon Coleman,
Boogie Basham, early rounds. So first and second round picks. They really haven't hit on first and second round picks. Second round pick, the best one was James Cook. It's got to be better, huh? Cole Bishop's a rookie. We haven't seen
the best pick he's made in the second round.
I hope that's true. I hope that's I hope it turns out that way. But man, it's. I'm not saying, and we're not saying, for those of you watching the show, thank you for watching and thank you for being a part of Buffalo Media Network and watching Intentional Grounding. We're not saying Brandon Beane's a bad drafter. He is a good drafter, but he's missed. He's missed.
I literally love that man. If you had to make me pick between him and McDermott, I'm picking him. If you had to make me pick between him and anybody on the roster not named Josh Allen, I'm picking him.
Yeah. He's a top 5 GM in this league, right? So we're not down on Beane. It's just he's got to get better early rounds. And you're right. I think the desperation that they do have when they look at their top need on their roster every season, and that's what they go after first. That's exactly what they draft first, and they chase it. And recently, it just hasn't been working out.
I don't know, man. I'm a big team builder, roster builder guy. Build through the draft. I just think you've got real solid pieces right now, and none of them are elite.
Right.
It's your quarterback won an MVP this year because the rest of the team around him wasn't good enough.
Right.
It's literally why people switched their vote between All-Pro and MVP. That is the argument they make. So that is a screaming indictment for where this team is. And you made it to the AFC Championship game with that.
Yeah. Yep.
So drafting a guy in the first round and building for the next 4 or 5 years sounds great. But also, you're that close, dog. You're that freaking close.
Yeah, man. We got to see some returns now. We got to get over the hump.
You better find some blue chippers. Like if you're going to use those draft picks on kids, then they better be blue chippers. And if not, you better trade those first round picks for blue chippers.
Yeah, you got to.
So I don't know that I'm on board with your whole, you got to draft guys right now.
Of course not. I love, you'll start seeing it my way here soon.
Well, the day that I start seeing it your way, I'm going to retire. Then I'll think Myles Garrett is better than Micah Parsons.
Hey, Ian, make sure TD does that Twitter poll because we need the data. We need the data to talk about it next week.
I literally can't believe that you believe that.
I do believe that. I do. I really do.
Not on any planet in any parallel universe is that true.
Maybe we'll have to do a little film breakdown of the two.
You talk to plenty of people. Go ahead, ask TD on Thursday. I have no doubt in my mind that I'm speaking for the people here. You have got to be kidding me.
We'll put the Twitter poll up, and we'll see how they vote. I think it's going to be interesting. I look. I think we're on the same path here, right? Like it's not just about Myles Garrett. It's not just about Micah Parsons. I mean, I hope he's available. I would rather have Micah Parsons because he's younger. But I'll take either one of them right now.
It's not just that, dog. I mean, I know what you're gonna say, so I shouldn't even waste my breath, but I guess I'll say it for all the people out in Twitter land. You've got a big edge setting defensive end who is a decent pass rusher.
Who are you talking about? Greg Rousseau?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's good, not great, but if all the attention's on him, he's not gonna dominate.
Right.
But he's big and plenty physical enough to set the edge. He's a good run defender. He's good.
Elite run defender.
I don't need a pumped up version of him on the other side.
You want to go for a different skill set, and I get that. The complement each other. I get that. I'll
take Myles Garrett on the other side because it's not going to be bad. But I have that guy that can set the edge and play a good defensive end already. Now give me the bendy, fast, athletic freak who can rush from anywhere. Give me that guy and put him across from the edge setting defensive end and let the two of them meet.
Yeah. Well, I think you should
Myles Garrett better than Micah Parsons.
You got homework. I think you need to, Abdul Carter, but I think you need to check out some James Pierce. Okay. And then I'll give you a mid-round guy to look at. Like I said, Josiah Stewart from Michigan. I think you need to check him out.
No, I'm not looking up one of your Michigan guys.
No, I'm telling you, bro.
No.
Yeah.
I don't need your maize colored glasses. Thank you.
Nope. Okay, first of all, I am very, very realistic in terms of my draft preparation.
The mid-round prospect.
When we talk about Michigan Wolverines, I don't just glaze them.
The mid-round prospect you just happened to pull out of your hat.
Josiah Stewart.
Okay, was a Michigan Wolverine.
Check him out because he, according to your profile that you like in a defensive end that will complement Greg Rousseau, I think Josiah Stewart would be a good guy to look at mid-round.
This is what I'm saying. You're not listening to me.
How am I not?
The guy that you draft doesn't matter if he's the same exact person as Greg Rousseau or not. You'll be lucky if he's Greg Rousseau. So I don't care if his skill set's the same. But if you're going to go get a guy who you're going to pay out the nose for to bring somebody in and have them be that dude, yeah, I absolutely want the other skill set.
Okay.
I don't care what you go draft. I don't need a bendy athletic guy that you go draft. I need an effective guy.
You need production.
I don't care if he rushes backwards. I need him to fucking sack the quarterback.
Obviously. But I'm just telling you, Josiah Stewart can do that.
Rush backwards.
James Pierce can do that. Oh yeah, they can do it. I mean,
I know those Michigan guys like to bend over. So
hey, now, hey, watch him out there, big guy.
What?
You're hating. All right. Well, it's been a really good conversation, man. It always is.
Myles Garrett over Micah Parsons.
We're gonna let the people speak on that one.
I'm gonna be sick, is what I'm gonna do.
Well, yeah, I got medicine for you, buddy. I'll send it to your house.
Okay.
Hey, make sure you give us a like, follow, subscribe to the Buffalo Media Network. This is Intentional Grounding. I am Sterling Furrow. That is Rob Trujillo, and we will see you next week. Live in peace. We out. Go Bills.
Go Bills.